Welcome to a simple communion story, an archive tale, Marriage of Serpents, episode 5. A Marriage of Serpents is a story set on the island of Maur, where the gods have fallen in the gods fall wars, and the dragon that is the spirit of the land has also perished. And 10 years on, life has returned and the seasons proceed as normal, although the rage of the serpent is still legendary and peaks up from time to time. This is a story set in the southern kingdom of Tuhal, in its capital, Kerkuval. And in last episode, which was episode 4, also shared the same title as episode 3, The Child. In episode 4, we met Darrow and, Paul could find his notes, Darrow and Tara O'Boyne, both from the fallen kingdom of Alay that lies to the east in the boggy lands up against the ocean of Tuhal. And we met Darrow and Tara O'Boyne, who are could reasonably be described as excessively open at their home in the old market district, where once there was in fact a market, maybe 10 years ago. And the blue-white builder ribbon of the road passed seamlessly through, providing easy transit to the east and north and up to the other kingdoms. And since the transition after the Gods Fall Wars, the builder structures have become at best unreliable and at worst malicious, and have even been described as carnivorous. And so the new market, the old market, having fallen into a boggy state, was largely abandoned for the new market, which is across the ribbon and a little farther away from it on Tuhal's northern road. And the now old market is a residential place, and apparently an excellent place for growing leeks, because Darrow and his wife Tara O'Boyne, Darrow being a fighter at the Proving Grounds, a very old fighter at 30. They have not a small plot up against the hill, where they have a large and thriving leek farm. And they were introduced to the wizard Kian and his motley monster companions, as Tara dubbed them, and not in an unwelcoming way. And speaking of monsters, let's have all of the cute monsters, starting with Kian, introduce themselves.
Well, Kian is a Dree wizard. By the way, I'm John Schivoni. I'm playing Kian Gallagher. Kian is a Dree, a wizard, and so by Tuhal standards, probably the greatest of monsters as a practitioner of magic. He was originally from Kahal, the sister kingdom and not rival of Tuhal, but was caught in acts of espionage and was therefore, as his punishment, bonded to one of the noble houses in Tuhal. So he's allowed to practice magic, but basically as a servant, or more accurately, a slave.
And this is Matthew Melville.
Sorry, and you are?
Me?
Did I miss you saying your name?
I did say my name. Yeah,
oh,
I'm John
sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, please go on. Ignore it.
And this is Matthew Melville. I play Cecile and Sisyphus. And they are two of the lizard folk from the swamp, known as the why does my mind always blank?
The Surin?
The Surin. Thank you, John. but they're known as the Surin, and they come from a free swamp with basically Neolithic technology, Stone Age, and they've come into the human kingdoms on their own quest into a place where all their people are enslaved and they're constantly at risk of discovery. And they have reason to believe that this Dree wizard has information and a destiny that is entwined with their people, and so they've been following him around and trying to see what the dragon with his dying breath has left his favorite people in their time of need.
I'm Dale Frankie. I'm playing a character called Clayborn that appears to be a layer of sentient mud bound around a skeleton. I have interesting ideas about socialization. Sentient mud. Sentient mud.
With surprises inside, we learned.
Oh, there are surprises within.
Excellent. Alrighty. So welcome to episode 5, The Beloved. We begin the Beloved ensconced in the home, although probably more properly a dun, of Darrow and Tara O'Boyne, who have taken these 4 monsters in and offered them hospitality by deed, by attitude, and by act, and have received fine response from those they are hosting. Spilling some of the details of their investigation into the closure of the proving grounds, and some of their startling discoveries, such as the death of Bin O'Dare. They inspired Daru to go and speak with the missing Donal Olu, who lives nearby in the Old Market. And so he has departed, leaving them in the capable company of his long-braided, broad-shouldered wife's, Tara's, company, and perhaps more importantly, the company of her storytelling mind and sharp, salacious tongue, as she outlined for them, as her husband dryly, without skill, honor, or interest, she would say, outlaid for them the story of the rivalry between Bin O'Dare and Donal Olu, which of course involved a woman. And so as she revolves around them, as they sit first in the dun at the large table by the hearth, and then outside as she gathers and prepares vegetables from the garden for a real meal, as she says. She spins for them the salacious and intrigue-laden story of the woman that came between Donal and Bin. And to present us with this story, we have Matthew and John.
Right.
So I think with great relish and singing a song that it's unclear whether she has come up with this song on the spot or she had overheard this song since, but she tells them the story of Kiara and Donal and Bin, and Kara and Donald had a spat, a lover's quarrel, and Bin, out of great jealousy, thinking that Donald had been sleeping with Bin's wife, although that it's unclear whether that was actually true or whether that was Bin his own paranoia or jealousy. But whatever the reason, he definitely wanted to embarrass Donald. And when he found out that Kiara and Donald had a lover's quarrel, he thought he could use that. And so he tried to manipulate Kiara into this kind of scheme where she would call out Bin's name and hold up a flag. But the thing that Bin didn't quite realize is that Kiara and Donald, their affair was quite volatile, and it was just as likely that they were to make up as it was for them to be fiery at each other. And so within a few short days, they had actually made up. And yet there was still several more days to go before the big fight, where Donald and Bin were going to fight each other at the proving grounds. And so, having made up, Kiara kind of sheepishly admitted to Donald that, oh yeah, that Bin, he tried to get me to do a thing, and I was going to do it because I was so angry at you, but I'll tell him to fuck off. But Donald, kind of pissed at Bin for even coming up with this to begin with, told her to go along with it, go ahead. But instead to add something to the flag that she was kind of crafting, that Bin had kind of tried to convince her to show during the arena. And Matthew, you had ideas for what that flag looked like?
So in usual with LA, there's a blue horizon line, and that was replaced by a brown smear of mud, kind of going back to the fact that LA has a lot of swampland and it's a very wet and kind of muddy place. And it's kind of been a old insult that LA is the kingdom of mud that goes back centuries. And she was aware of that, but she was less aware of the other insult of it's the family Boyne, right?
O'Dare.
O'Dare, sorry.
Ben O'Dare.
The Ben O'Dare. A lot of times their crest was laced with, it's not ermine because I don't think those are native to the island, but there is like a white fox fur that they would coat their heraldry with. But she had him replace it with this brown fur. And while it wasn't true wolfen fur, it is the signal of the wolfen of LA. And by doing that, it connotes the idea that his families had merged and might have even intermingled with the wolfen. And so it kind of suggests that he is of mixed race, and that these humans had mixed with the slave race of the wolfen and been with the dogs, so to speak.
Yeah,
wow.
the original flag's heraldry was the O'Dare heraldry, which she was supposed to display prominently as she called out Bin's name.
Right.
And so she just made a few alterations, and now it basically was calling the O'Dare a clan of half-breeds.
Mm-hmm.
Muddy half-breeds.
Muddy half-breeds, yeah.
Which Donald is also of Clan LA, but this is the O'Dare's kind of their heraldry. And so she called out Bin's name.
And all his supporters recognized it and started chanting Dog Warrior, Dog Warrior, Dog Warrior when he went out to fight. And the crowd, always eager to kind of go along with anything that seemed like fun and would kind of rally people together, took up the chant. And so he was greeted as he came up onto the proving field with Dog Warrior, with the focal point being this banner that brought shame to his family.
Yeah, and so needless to say, that did not go the way Ben expected it to go. And he was enraged. And Donald, I think, did not really expect the fury to have as large an effect on Ben's performance as it did. I think he suspected it would make him unfocused, but it actually didn't. Ben nearly slaughtered Donald in the arena in front of everybody, and they, after having beaten him soundly and had making him submit and running his face into the mud, and it was clear that the match was over, he would have continued and killed him if not some other warriors kind of leaped out and pulled Ben off of him. And so that's why this became such a notorious kind of, people wrote songs about it, and it kind of spread widely as a result. And so it actually embarrassed him even further because of the shame of having kind of nearly murdered somebody in the proving grounds after
Particularly
that warrior.
popular song that did not mention either of the participants, but everybody kind of knew who they were talking about. Kind of had allusions to this fight, and the song was known as "Don't Kick the Dog." And it's all about a master and his dog, and he mistreats the dog and kicks the dog until one day the dog rises up and kills him in front of the crowd. And this kind of gets sung around, and then the children took it up, not even knowing what the original thing was. And this has been a further embarrassment to, I think at this point, both warriors.
Wow.
Nearly brought down and killed, and the other known as the dog warrior.
So I think that's the story. Tara tells it with probably inappropriate delight.
Lots of sound effects.
Yeah. I think, and I don't know if this is consistent with your notes, Paul. I didn't want to assume, but I also think Kiara went missing after that.
Oh. Wow, thanks, guys.
Paul's taking a lot of notes.
Lovely. Well, thank you for your efforts. I'm going to award you each a gold juice. And so, as you know, you can use juice to add power to a roll. You can use juice to create a status tag, particularly for yourself. But you could also involve it in doing a change the game for creating a status tag for the scene or for others. So, for example, and so a gold juice, like gold itself, does not tarnish with time. So a juice that you generate with a change the game move are iron. It immediately begins to rust. But this gold juice is eternal and strong and beautiful. And so you can save it and use it when you need it.
Yay.
Nice.
Lovely. And so the telling, Tara's telling is long and full of asides, full of unimportant but utterly delicious side salacious details of everyone involved in the story, and many of their family members besides, whose ignominy clearly does not pertain to the story, but like the many vegetables she is adding to the stew that she's making as she tells the story, each adds something that the whole would be lesser without. And although it is certain that the characters which she assassinates with her words over the course of the telling are not so clear and stark-edged in the real world as they are in her story, but nonetheless, you have a mental picture and a clear thought of what kind of person each of these people are by the time she finishes the story, and the stew and the ground oat bread, which she pulls from the cinders of the fire and breaks off the outer coating, the outer coating of meal, and then she serves the steaming pot of broth, which had been there, or the stew, which had started as a steaming pot of onion broth that had been cooking since the morning, and which she enhanced over the telling and with the bubbling power of fire, with turnips and leeks roasted in the fire, and many other delightful things besides. And those of you who can drink are bullied into doing so, gently bullied into doing so, into drinking more of Daru's honey wine, and then some small portion of beer, and then with the meal itself, to cleanse the palate after, an anise flavored pochine, so an anise flavored white liquor. And she is either not the kind of refined person who has the water of life, wishkabaha, or she's not wasting it on you.
What is the water of life?
Whiskey. Wishka.
I see.
Wishkabaha is the water of life. But she does offer you pochine, which means like the little pot. It's a still brewed thing that you make in little pots.
Okay.
And at some point she comes back from one of the sheds out at the edges of the field, because they apparently make their own clay, as you can see from many of the clay items, because the hill, the base of the hill is apparently a fine clay. And she brings a plate that in every way is more finely and brightly colored of its contents than her stew and bread and drinks, and sets it out for Claiborne with a sort of shrug. And there's a small amount of hard, unbaked but hard clay, clay that would need to be worked on it, and then arranged in a pattern which is reminiscent of the old patterns used to represent the dragon, are a number of brilliantly colored pigments, which are rarefied ores that she's gotten from somewhere to color the colorful clays that decorate her house and make her plates and other wares.
It's quite the hospitality.
Wow.
I wasn't certain if you drank or ate, especially, but we're just coming up on a season where we'll get some fine cut oak, and we've been preparing for a new set of clay for me to sell at the market. So I thought you might like to sample the goods, since I'm uncertain how turnip stew will sit for you.
Thank you very much, lady. I have never been offered this sort of hospitality. I am moved.
It's only a fitting gift. Salt and clean salt at that is a fine and precious gift.
Kian kind of glances over at Claiborne and then looks at Tara. It's unexpected that a denizen of Tuhal would receive us with such equanimity.
Well, you forget we're not from Tuhal.
Fair enough.
And to us, this is a palace fit for kings. And I have decided to be a queen.
And your husband, is he a king?
Or jester, I think. But one with a broad back and many uses. And then soberness falls over her thick, not unlovely features. Although most of the loveliness of Tara seems to be within her. And she looks at the remnants of the meal now dotting the table, and the place where Sisyphus has laid down in front of the hearth and is licking the cauldron out with his long tongue. Where once probably there was intended to be turnip stew for tomorrow. The sun is nearly set outside, and Darrow has not returned.
I was about to ask you about that.
Been hours. Donald's house is only a modest walk from here.
Do you want us to go look for him?
It isn't impossible that the talk and the day in your arrival have inspired something in him, and he ran into people and waylaid himself at a public house.
That didn't seem... The look on his face when he seemed headed out seemed quite focused.
Yes. Well, to be fair, he has been struck in the head quite a number of times. But yes, I am...
Kian stands up. I think we were going to pay Donalulu a visit anyways. Isn't that right?
Yes.
He glances back at Tara. Do you think Donal, aside from his prowess as a warrior, you understand, is he a dangerous man?
He can be when provoked.
Is Daru common to provoke him?
Well, Owen and Lou are a provocation in and of themselves.
Perhaps we shouldn't have let Darrow leave.
I think that describing it as allowing my husband to leave is perhaps a bit misled, but yes, if you wouldn't mind taking an after-dinner stroll by Donald's house and seeing if all is well, I would appreciate it. I'll inquire with the neighbor whose son works at the public house that my husband favors.
If we find him drunk at a public house, I'll be sure to twist his ear for you. She stares pointedly at your arms and says, "Perhaps have the big one do it." I didn't say I would do it if you were sober. Or awake. Kian heads for the exit and kind of looks back to see if the others are following.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I can imagine Sisyphus picking up the cauldron and trying to sneak it out of the house.
Yeah, I think Cecile just kind of clicks his tongue at him. Sisyphus just kind of looks at it and just sort of puts it down sorrowfully. Cecile kind of comes over on his arms, then climbs up.
She seems like she might say something and then thinks better of it. And so you pass out into the gathering dark. Yes.
Claiborne, when he walks away from the table and his plate, there's a lump of clay in a very smooth ball in the center of the plate, and the clay has been basically it's been purified. It has no bubbles within. It has the perfect moisture level, and is incredibly smooth. And it will make a joy of a bowl.
It can't be said that Donald Alou's house, that Donald Alou has spent himself as his pit companion Darrow has. His house is a mud-walled affair at the edge of and probably beyond the edge of the proper peat moss bog that has begun to take root at the edge of the old market. And there are obvious signs that a number of stones have been, river stones presumably, have been brought from elsewhere and laid around the foundations of the mud walls to support them, but they have clearly sunk into the bog and served as a base for the moss to grow up and onto the edges of the house, which seems like a good idea until you pause to consider that in perhaps a magical way, sphagnum moss, which forms the peat moss bogs, brings its own soil and water with it as it goes. And so if it were to crawl up and cover your house would quickly become a sodden disaster. As you stroll up in the early darkness of the new day, there's a pale but clear shadow that you all are casting. And glancing back as you turn along the mud track that you've been told leads to Donald's house, you see that Brugon the Grey has risen on the far horizon and is hovering a few handspans up into the night dark. It's said that Brugon is mostly heart, and that like a great animal, its heart is so great that all of our hearts beat in sympathy. And so Brugon is said to tug at the hearts of the world with its own mercurial emotions. And thus, on occasion, to act as a dangerous crucible for events. There is that as you approach the mud house, there is that scent of burning peat, and from Kian, from much experience, you can tell that the peat wasn't cured long enough, and therefore it's not burning well and probably smokily. And it's a sort of tangy, rich, coppery, tobacco-y kind of a smell. And it has a little more green to it, obviously being insufficiently cured. And so it hangs thick in the area. More people than Donald must be burning it, because almost just a little bit below head height, there's a faint sort of blue pall of the peat moss's burned smoke, sort of hanging in lazy drifts in the quiet, cold night air. You can see a small light inside, and as you approach, you hear the caterwauling of an extremely unhappy infant.
As we approach, I think Kian actually stops when he hears the infant.
Mm-hmm.
And he, at first, I think the two of you see him, or the three of you rather, see him kind of lean forward as if he's about to rush inside when he hears the baby's cry. But then he kind of stops himself. And then he kind of holds up a hand and says, is anybody inside going to answer? And he kind of waits and waits to see if the baby's crying is going to alert a response from inside the building.
The baby continues to wail.
I think Sisyphus kind of moves past you and goes to knock on the door.
So unlike the O'Boyne house, which was built on stone and timbers, this house is not. and it's built of mud on mud from mud. And there are you can see that in the top of the house, which is relatively small. There have been thoughts of thatch. Thatch has been applied, but in such quantities that it has largely been swallowed by the mud of the roof and just sort of peeks out here and there, like an incompetent decorator's unfinished project.
Was this house constructed recently then?
No, you don't think so?
It was just constructed shittily.
Yes, and the bog is clearly advancing.
I see.
And so it was probably on dry ground when it was first made, but now is not.
Huh.
And there's pretty much no stopping a bog, as you might know.
Yeah, and the bog, I mean, the advancement must have been relatively slow, right?
Probably slow but inexorable, so like inch by day by inch.
But like, it's not like whoever was inside this house knew it was coming, that it was just going to keep coming.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so there are some large flat stones laid as kind of a lintel stone for a doorway, but there's actually just a thick stitching of red and gray, red and white wolf hides.
As Sisyphus kind of moves past Kian, thinking better of stopping the lumbering Surin, he kind of looks over and tries to see if there's a window he can instead look through.
So it looks like once there were windows with shutters, and the mud of the house has become sodden, and what may have been clay, hopefully was clay window frames, have sort of collapsed, and so now the shutters are sort of stuck in a mud inlay and obviously can't open.
So nobody's opened the door after he knocked.
There's no door. It's just a hide. It's a thick wolf's stitching of a fine and beautiful stitching of red and white wolves' hides.
Okay, I think
by
Sisyphus,
red, I mean like tawny red.
Gotcha. I think Sisyphus bends down. Cecile kind of opens it and shouts, "Hello."
you as you pull the curtain of the skin back, you're assaulted by the unfiltered wailing of an extremely unhappy infant, and a mixture of smells of baby excrement and a thick, kind of almost to the point of being noxiously thick, stench of burning peat moss. And the air seems very thick, very humid inside the hut, also inside the house. And so you kind of, and in your breath, Cecile's breath catches for a moment on the thick, humid air, and if he had hair, it's possible that it would be blown back by the wailing of the child.
Okay. I think Cecile says, "Well, we don't want to go in there," just as Sisyphus walks in. Well, we don't want to.
I think Kian, rather than, because Sisyphus, I imagine Sisyphus is large enough that you can't get inside while he's
I think
going
he kind
inside.
of, yeah, I think he kind of goes, he ducks down, kind of goes in sideways and kind of goes in.
Right. And so not trying to jam that doorway, Kian looks around is actually, the first thing he looks for is like fresh footprints away from this house.
So Sisyphus bends down, Cecile kind of rocking wildly back and forth as he squiggles his way in through the doorway, and then sort of like hunches up against, and there is in fact kind of the unsteady coal flicker of a hearth, where bricks of peat are burning, and it's in that shifting, ruddy, unsteady light that with uncanny aim, something flies out of the darkness, and had it been bladed, would certainly have embedded itself in Sisyphus's snout. But judging by the smell that he conveys to you, as it bounces off, it seems to be a shoe. What on earth do you think you're doing in here, you fucking lizard?
Yeah, I think just the giant head kind of looks towards the baby and then kind of looks towards the woman. And there's like not real expression. It looks just like the statue, but there's this kind of clear bit of like judgment, just as it's like, you know.
So as your eyes adjust to the ruddy darkness of the house, you can see there's kind of an attempt to create two rooms in the structure by hanging more relatively fine and probably valuable wolf's cut and sewn wolf pelts. And one side of it has been drawn aside, and there's a kind of a mound, which you presume is a bed. And there's a woman, you can trace the shape of a woman sitting at the base of it, and she does in fact have she's wearing a kilt, and kind of swaddled in the kilt in her arms is a baby. And although certainly the red light of the burning peat contributes to a certain amount, you're absolutely certain that the infant is red-faced. And she you look at it, and she goes back to trying to it's a relatively young child, maybe a couple of months, maybe 5 if it's a small baby. And she's obviously trying to get it to latch onto her bare, large, shapely, beautiful, milky breasts. Do you intrude but not speak? Is that it? Get out with you! And who are you? And she hurls her other shoe uncannily at your head, Kian, as you bow to come into the room.
Oh no, I'm still outside. I haven't.
Oh, well, so he swiggled in, and you could kind of scourge past his tail if you.
No.
Because you said you were coming in next, so.
Oh, I say instead of that, I was looking for footsteps out, away from the hut, but.
Oh, the squidgy mud of the kind of slightly raised trail, where obviously many stones have been piled and just, sunk into the swamp, is not the kind of place that holds footprints.
Really? Mud, even though it's mud?
Yeah, because it's that kind of like overly wet, gloopy, so like even Sisyphus's massive rounded footprints on it are water is already seeping in at the edges, and the edges are sort of oozing back in. Okay. Anyway, so you could see that she is so she's sort of like with her left hand kind of working the baby's mouth at her nipple. And with her other hand, you can see she's undoing her other shoe.
Cecile, I think, kind of puts up his hands And he's kind of like smacking his fist. I told you we shouldn't come in.
Dude.
We're sorry.
2 arms and 4 heads. What kind of monster are you?
Is your child having trouble feeding?
Yes, he won't take my breast. Which is something, to be fair, that I prayed to the night gods for for months with my husband to no avail.
I might be able to help if you'd like. I won't hurt the child.
Do lizards give milk?
We have. Well, I think with them being as the Surin, they actually do have live births, like some reptiles do. And I don't think they give milk, but I think there is this
Plus you're
method by
both
where
male.
yeah, right. Although, true story, human males are actually capable of lactating. It's uncommon, but it's something that we're biologically prepared to do.
Well,
Our
I'm
nipples are
prepared
not.
to do my part.
Yeah. Anyway, so I think they have this thing where with the really young ones, they do like this regurgitating sort of thing. But yeah, sometimes with the newly born ones, there's still a problem with getting them to eat.
Of course.
At this point, I think Kian rounds towards the entrance, and would it make sense to knock to announce a presence on the lintel, like around the hides?
There isn't really
That's fine.
a discernible lintel.
I'll just call inside. Good apologies. These Surin belong to me. They were concerned, I think, about the wailing of the child. May I come in?
And who the fuck are you?
I'm Kian Gallagher. I was looking.
Did Batty send you? You can tell that old crone to go shove it.
No, actually, have you seen Donald or Daru? Daru O'Boyne.
Yes, of course.
May I come in, good woman?
If you must. And close the damn fur, you're letting all the heat out. The baby's
Right.
going to freeze to death, as well as starve. It'd break my goddamn eardrums.
He kind of walks in a little sheepishly, and his expression kind of he's unable to contain the expression as the wave of hot air hits him.
Yeah. And you can see the source of it is there are some there is a small kind of river stone hearth and some questionably clean baby nappies have been laid atop it, obviously to dry, but there's a pile of unclean baby nappies next to a clay bowl.
Oh no!
Right by the hearth, that are
Oh.
probably the source of the heart of the smell.
Oh.
So you stand up a little straighter so that your nose enters the nicotine blue layer of smog from the and you gratefully breathe in deeply of the peat mosses off-gassing in preference. Yes, Boeing was by earlier, condescending.
Condescending.
He does little else as far as I can tell.
Sorry.
Oh, where's the fucking...
Was Donald here?
she kind of leans over the baby, kind of almost like catapulting out of her out of the drape of her kilt, and she grabs a jar and pulls like a wax stopper out of it and sniffs it. Oh, and reaches over and roots around and grabs another jar and pulls out and pulls her fingers out covered in some kind of gloopy sticky thing that she then sort of vigorously rubs on her areolae, and then licks off her hands, spotted also with the tearing of her milk, and then like roughly shoves the baby's head against her breast.
Was Doddle here? Gian says, trying to maintain his composure.
I'll be right back. I'm gonna go call Child Protective Services.
Yeah.
Twice, hopefully.
Feels like that Breaking Bad episode.
No, I haven't seen that piece of shit in a fortnight. Have you seen Donald? Because if you do see Donald, you tell him he better get his arse home, but he better expect to have his balls crushed flat when he does. She's a small woman, but somehow you believe her.
He's not the only one that's gone missing. Did Daru tell you anything?
It honestly sounded like the beginnings of some kind of nonsense justification for their little boys' club to get away with something. Again.
I know nothing about that, but I don't think this is that. Although perhaps you could.
Who are you now?
He kind of pauses, and no one you know, but the reason I'm here is I was sent to look into the proving grounds, and Donald, Bin, and what's his name?
Look into the proving grounds.
They've been closed, right?
Well, hallelujah.
Well, 3 of the fighters have gone missing. One of them's dead. So...
Dead?
Aye.
It's not Daru, is it?
It's not. It's Bin O'Dare.
Oh, well then. See, good things do still happen.
Do you know anything about that?
I mean, I didn't get the chance to drive a hot butter knife through his heart, no.
Do you know anything about when Donald disappeared, or what happened? Was there anything strange before he left?
No, I don't know. Would it be sitting here? Oh God. Ah, the biting. Ah.
Things I did not expect Paul to be role-playing for us.
I think Matthew had to go in the other room and throw up. Or shower, possibly. No, I didn't know anything about it. He went off, and he often doesn't come back. A lot of them go off on stupid adventures and things after they have successful matches and tour around and, are drunk for a week.
Okay.
So it's unsurprising that Donald didn't return that night or the next.
So he had a good day, is what you're saying?
Well, I assumed so.
Oh. Do you ever make it up there yourself?
Those days are long past.
Ah, I see.
Mama, who is the big man? You hear from the dark, "Oh, Christ, and now you've woken the other one." "No one, dear. It's just friendly spirits sent to help your mom. I want a friendly spirit. Shut up and go back to sleep." Okay. Well, now that you've woken my other child, is there any other town gossip service that I can provide you with, Mr. Whoever you are? Mr. Nobody I know.
Can I do the Earth Speaks poll and get a sense of the land
Sure.
and the house?
Yeah, so you're doing an investigation?
Yep. Divination, investigation.
Earth is stinky.
The earth is trying to cover the baby poop smell by burying it in an anaerobic environment. Oh God, send more moss. Make it sink. Ugh. Okay. So the earth speaks is what you're tapping?
Oh, yeah. So it's hashtag roll 2d6.
Yeah, that's correct. Did you put a space in the beginning or something?
It's slash, not hashtag.
Yeah, it's slash, but that's what he typed.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
And you can just type /roll. Oh, maybe it just took a second?
Okay.
Oh, no.
So,
Yeah. There might have been a leading space.
oh, maybe that's what I had. Anyway, so that would be an 8.
Okay.
Right.
All right. So you're going to get one question about the Earth. And you can choose whether it exposes you to danger or she learns something uncomfortable about you.
Let's have it expose us to danger.
Really? Okay.
So I'm curious. Let's see. How do I don't want to blow this. So I am a little bit curious about why the swamp is kind of moving in, but I feel like that might just be kind of part of the terribleness of everything else kind of going on.
I promise you I will not answer because of the terribleness. I like how the shine of the light off my forehead is freaking the camera out.
Yeah. The other thing that
because of the terribleness could answer any question we ask Paul at any given time.
No, I'll give you a real answer. This isn't the incomplete fuzzy version. So. And then this is not a genie. This is your power that loves
right.
you. So it will work.
Yeah, so I just kind of want to know a little bit more about some of the underlying powers that are happening here that are changing the Earth over time.
Okay.
Because my power is a little bit more over time.
Yeah.
Because obviously something's affecting this place.
So, what do we see? What is presumably Mrs. Olu see as you do this?
I think that Sisyphus blinks, and because I think Cecile does better if he can kind of channel both of them. He can kind of do it himself, but I think Sisyphus blinks, and you just have the eyelid or whatever, so it's just like milky white with no iris. and then Cecile just goes
I was
absolutely
thinking
still.
that the Saren have a nictating membrane.
Okay, like a second eyelid.
Yeah, so they have an inner eyelid that closes sideways.
Okay, yeah. So I think
A
those.
lot of amphibians do.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I think for both of them, those close, and then they go absolutely still. Um,
Oh,
so the outer eyelid is still open, so you can kind of just see the milky whiteness, and then so Sisyphus tends to go still often,
right.
but Cecile kind of joins them, and they start looking just kind of like two formed statues. And I think this goes on for like a good 30 seconds.
Okay. So we'll come back to you.
Okay.
Okay. And so, Kian, you were saying?
What was I saying?
She said, "Of course, I didn't know.
Oh,
You know, he. Yes, of course, I assumed that he had done well, and so, but then,
do you know where Daru went after he left here?
well, he was obviously fucking curious about the other Alus. I must add.
Oh, so abandoned, possibly.
You know.
I, I think I glance over at Cecile and Sisyphus and see them both completely motionless,
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of sidestep in front of them.
Honey, I think the lizards might be dead. You hear from the darkness.
I'm sorry to bother you. If I find Donald, I'll pass along your message, Kian says to her.
And what was your name again?
I'm Kian Gallagher.
Gallagher. Oh, you're far from home, Mr. Gallagher.
I
Hmm.
Seems we both are.
She looks you up and down without a generous note in her gaze.
Is she also from LA?
Yes, you think so.
It seems we both are, he says to her, meeting her gaze.
She has a look like flint with her blue-gray eyes. Oh, yeah, okay, that's enough. And she pulls the baby away from her breasts, whereupon it immediately begins wailing again.
Is the is the baby
And
has the baby soiled itself again? Can I tell from here?
it's pretty clear the baby needs changing.
I point I point towards the baby and I motion with my finger downwards towards the diaper. I think that might be relevant.
Unbalanced as she is, switching breasts, she misses your head and instead hits you in the shoulder with her shoe.
Right then. Have a good night.
Which is just when Sisyphus begins to moan.
Oh no.
Get out. Get out. Get out. And were you articulating your question, Matthew?
So this is kind of, so the way this happens is I feel like the questions are broader and a little less specific because it's over time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm interested in what power is at work here and kind of how long it's been going for.
Oh, perfect.
It's probably more of a sensation than like a clear answer.
Hopefully. Sorry, I'm just trying to turn the glare down on my head. There we go. The Builder's Road that ran from the crown through just nearby and off into the far distance. It's not just a few inches of stone drizzled like icing across a cake. It has bones. It's just the just the head crest on the hungry hunting fish lying in the mud. And it isn't that the road has shifted and the water has shifted out of some sprightly malice. It's that the Builder Road hates the city now and genuinely wants to destroy it. And as Sisyphus raises himself back up to his full height, using his brawny arms to crush the roof out of his way, and it's mud and wattle and daub and small rocks and sticks go flying out across the neighborhood to the sound of distant cries that the two of you pull yourself back out of a blue-white bath of, it isn't rage because it's not that hot, but it's hate. It's long and slow and blue-white and personal.
And it's not of the dragon or the serpent.
No, it's
something else.
It's the Builder Stone, which is now below you.
Oh.
And so she shrieks. The baby, well, needing no urge, joins in. And you realize there isn't one, but two other children off in the bed in the dark. And they both begin screaming in high-pitched, pipey children's voices. Mommy, he broke the house! One of them is screaming helpfully over and over again. Mommy, the lizard broke the house! She staggers to her feet, kind of rolling the baby in the drape of her kilt, so that it sort of swaddles down in front of her, and she starts picking up clay jars and throwing them at Cecile and Sisyphus.
Okay. Thank you here, Cecile. Sorry. Hopefully that will improve the ventilation, as I think Sisyphus and he built a hasty retreat outside the door.
Okay. Do you just go through the wall, the soddenish, muddy wall?
No, they're going to
Or-
go through the door. They're going to kind of
Okay.
duck down and
Okay.
duck down again. And
As you do, the internal surface of the hides, well treated as they are, but rough, catch on Cecile's bony protrusions, and he rips it out of the lintel where it was, or the header where it was affixed, and so he comes out sort of with a kind of red and white cape draped across Cecile's legs and down his back. Claiborne, what are you doing? Lights are starting to emerge from neighbors' houses, and people with weapons.
I don't know
And
these
there's
people.
a shrill child's voice screaming now into the open air through the broken roof. Mommy, the lizard broke our house.
Claiborne is standing on what path there is behind, further away from the house than any of my compatriots. I don't see any reason for him to react particularly.
Okay. So what is he looking at? Or where is he looking? Or what is he attending to? Is he just watching the spectacle of them coming out of the house?
Yes.
Okay. Kian, what are you doing?
I am beating as quick a retreat out of that hut as possible.
Okay. You you pause with a child's hopefulness and rack your brain for some spell that could make you invisible or whisk you into some distant wheat field, but come up empty as the shock of the cold night air and the almost acid tang of the cleaner air strike your face and lungs. Irritatingly placidly, Claiborne is regarding you as circles of ruddy light populate the night like fallen stars, as maybe half a dozen neighbors have emerged with torches from their huts and are fixing their attention upon you.
Hmm.
I'm running towards. I'm running away from the people.
Yeah.
So the path most away from the people would be to turn into the bog.
I guess I'm going into the bog.
Okay. So Kian begins splashing away from you, Claiborne, into the great, dark, slightly misty, open water area beyond the houses. So, a few important distinctions. A swamp is a place where there are feet of standing water over mud with trees. A bog, by contrast, is a place of maybe a standing inch of water, maybe, with sort of squidgy and then less squidgy mud and plant fibers woven together.
Hmm.
And so a bog is in some ways more dangerous because the real water and the bog are hard to tell apart, particularly at night. And there are definitely people, drunk people that wander into bogs and walk happily for hours and are fine. And then there are drunk people that wander into bogs and wander for 5 minutes and then fall into a hole in the mud and the water, and in the thick water where there is a deeper place in the mud, and the mud just takes them. And then there's no evidence that they were even ever there.
Hmm.
And then the moss there gets happier. So you go running off into the bog. Cecile and Sisyphus, you
Also towards the mud. Yeah. They're
you
more used to swamps than bogs, but
yes. Cecile, you're somehow surprised that the two of your bodies aren't like steaming blue-white light for some reason.
hmm.
So you turn and begin to follow Kian into the bog.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The common people of Maur, being much like dogs, seeing you run, they begin to give chase. And so you hear, "Hey, where's he going? You broke my house, you sons of bitches!" Claiborne, what are you doing in all this alarum? You're just standing there, pretending to be a statue. No one has noticed before.
They are important, and I will follow them.
I see. Oh dear. And you had just gotten over being waterlogged.
Well, that I took that in voluntarily. It was
Yes.
a choice.
Yes.
If I happen to fall into water, I don't dissolve. I may be very helpful in a bog, actually.
Okay, so you go stomping after them.
Yes.
All right.
Moving slowly, as I always do, and yet somehow keeping up.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I would like to.
So what is your strategy to get away in the bog? What are you doing? And you're in the lead, so you're sort of setting the tone unless somebody behind you does something else.
I am going to use the voice, and I'm going to use the serpent to call a mist behind us. And hopefully they're smart enough not to wander into the bog with mist.
Okay.
So
there's a whole story about deaths in the mist somewhere.
Yeah, relevant. And so as he's running, he notes that Claiborne and Sisyphus and Cecile are behind him. So he's kind of whispering under his breath the charm of making, and he tries to gather the serpent behind the three of us, the four of us. Wait, yeah, four of us, and between us and the people who are probably still getting together and like trying to figure out what's going on, but like have the mist be as thick enough to give them the sense that like, oh, if they can't see through the mist might go on as far as they can see, as far as they know. And so I want to do that.
So already a few things have been hurled at you in the dark, Claiborne. One kind of sklooged into your back, and the other two missed, and sort of splooged into the bog. Alrighty, so
Can I roll
do
that?
you have enough stolen power left to call the dragon's breath?
Oh yes.
And so what tags are you
Serpent's
using?
breath.
I'm going to be using the
Perhaps
voice.
you should show me more, Gamma.
The voice, the serpent gathers, which works even better because it works better in damp places, and the land changes.
I don't know about the land changes for this one. Or yes, yeah, that's fine. And I'm gonna let you know that there's a scene tag right now of the Earth hates, where the Earth also hates.
Oh.
So that's going to be a weakness, act as a weakness.
Okay.
And resist you.
That's fine. I'll roll 2d6 plus 2.
Yes, please.
9.
9. Okay. And so you are, I think you're chain. So let me know. So let's talk a little bit about. So first of all, what do we see? What happens? Because it happens regardless of how you roll.
Yeah, I think Kian actually kind of turns around and stops running because his companions are behind him, and so he's kind of waiting for them to catch up. And so for his companions who are facing towards him, what they see is as he turns, his mouth still moving, and the visual effect is almost as if like there's the shadow of the bog behind him is like a cloak, and as he kind of turns to face them, it's almost as if the shadow swirls behind him like a cloak. And as he continues chanting, the cloak moves forward with momentum and crashes down into the ground before them, and comes up underneath and behind them as mist. And if they look very carefully, the shape of the cloak as it crashes down below them and about behind them is serpent-like, which they've seen this before. And then the mist kind of comes out like a serpent, and then becomes intangible. It just becomes a regular mist, like it discorporates into a mist which blows back towards the villagers behind them, rolling towards them like, okay.
Please, these are fancy people. These are city dwellers. These aren't villagers.
Oh, well, they're still rubes. So
yeah, well.
So the mist rolls towards
common clay of
these
of this area,
these
morons.
ignorant savages of Tuhal, like a billowing ocean.
So here's my question. Do you think this is a convince action, or is it a change the game? So are you trying to impose a status on them, or are you trying to convince them not to pursue you?
I'm trying to convince them not to pursue us.
Okay. All right. So then, as the serpent crashes into the bog, as the serpent's shadow passes into the bog, it releases the mist, and which kind of grows and undulates and billows out behind you, swallowing up your vision of the buildings and all of the old market section of Kerkuval itself. And there, as mist does, their voices become tinny. Hey, where did they go? But rather than it being replaced by silence, their voices are replaced by other voices, murmuring and whispering and crying out just below the edge of understanding. They're over here and drink the blood. And there are a number of sort of deep, terrifying voices issuing back towards you out of the mist. And you realize that as the mist is flowing toward them, it's kind of risen up, and now it's beginning to sink down, and it's coming after you too.
Cecile's kind of writing on his fist, kind of slapping him on the back. Keep going, buddy. Keep going. This doesn't look good. The wizard did something.
So you pass Kian as he sort of blinks and kind of flexes his fingers like he can't quite feel them.
So he stopped running?
Then he did. He stopped running, and he gathered the shadow behind him and threw it back. And Brugon's gray silver light is sort of shining and shifting over the face of the mist, giving the mist forms and shapes it probably doesn't actually have, like, faces and weapons and bodies. Claiborne, what are you doing?
Paul, I think you and I talked about how Claiborne's perceptions are a little different. I think I would be able to find a safe path out.
Like through the bog?
Right. Like, I perceive things as they are, not as they may appear to be. Like, show me a playing card and I will see that you're holding a piece of cardboard.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think the mist is likely to impede his perceptions.
Okay. So are you gonna try to gather your sense of the world, and your sense of what's forward? You're currently not in the mist, but it did kind of unfurl back toward the town, but now it's also beginning to like fall in this direction.
Right.
So the mist hasn't struck you yet, but the danger more than the mist is the bog. because most of the bog is fine, but some places, you know, there are stones underneath, and or there are deep places, or there's sticky, muddy places.
Yes.
But it makes sense to me with, you know, looking at some of your tags that you could pull some of those together, and those would be the explanation. So tell us what Claiborne does and what he says and what he shows to us, and then we'll see if what happens then.
My friends, I believe I can get us out of this place safely, but I do not know where we wish to go.
So cold.
Away from the voices. Please, Claiborne.
Away from the road.
Very well. And he bends at the waist and plants his hands for a moment in the water and mud before him, and then stands up and puts out one arm and points. This way. So
Someone says that this will follow.
I believe geology and horizons are both applicable here.
Yes, I agree. And so is this, so again, is this an investigate? Like, are you finding, are you kind of feeling and sensing the right way? Or is this a change the game where you're sort of making a way?
I think I'm going to embrace the changeable nature of the bog itself, because in a way bogs are change. And make a path through it.
Great.
Are
All right.
one of those mythos tags?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes. Just what John was hoping for.
Yes.
Please use magic. Please use magic. Please use magic.
And please roll well when you use magic.
Yeah.
I'm gonna use restroom. I'll be right back.
Okay. So you're going to want to roll 2d6 plus 2.
Mm-hmm. Ah, damn it. 9.
Boy, you guys are rolling adequate tonight. So you're able to, as you continue to hold out your arm and walk, it sways right and left, following the scents of mud and water, and not perhaps moving you, judging by Kian's discomfort, as quickly away from the mist as he might like. And so the thin veil of it, the kind of advancing, not so much a fog, but just like there's a sort of a thickening of the air all around you. And you have a feeling that were you a man, you would fail to find your way out of the bog, because there are strange shapes you can almost make out in the hanging, fetid air, that just sort of escape acuity for you. But Kian has I think Kian like lays his hand, like tries to get a handful of like your shirt, and sort of just like lays his hand on your back, slightly stickily.
Does he find a dagger handle embedded, protruding from my back? What they threw into what hit?
Yes,
Okay.
in fact he does. Yeah. A nice bronze, heavy handled blade. Loots. So you hold on to the dagger embedded in his back, harmlessly in his back.
Bronze.
And it's and you focus on the semi-solid nature of his form, rather than the mist which is sort of filling the air in all around the four of you. And so you are able to make it easily, but Sisyphus, either Claiborne has underestimated his abilities, or can't find a way reliably large enough for you to pass. And so Sisyphus keeps, whereas Kian's pace is steady, and there's a squelch of moss and mud, but nothing else. But his feet being much wider than the two man-shaped creatures, he keeps hitting deep sinkholes of mud and small areas, pools of muddy water that look like solid ground. And so I just need you to face danger.
Okay.
And so this is either plowing through it, keeping your footing, or just sort of like giving up and swimming, or however you want to, or something else, some other way that you'd like to face the danger.
Can I use Heart of the Dragon? Because the Surian are known for maybe less bogs, but kind of the swamps. And so there would be a little bit of familiarity there.
Sure.
So that'd be an 8.
Okay.
John, you're still muted, by the way.
I'm just covering the typing.
So then I'm going to impose status on you, Sisyphus, which is lightly drowned 1.
Okay.
So you've been you've been face planting and gulping mud and splooshing underwater and taking a little gulp of water and dirty water and and getting mud in your nictitating membranes. And so by the time you reach dry ground at the edge of the bog, you're lightly drowned.
I think it might be too late since I think we're reaching the end of it. But I think I tug on Claiborne's cloak and to signal him to hold on for a moment. And I look back, and I'm checking to see are the voices still coming closer, or have they finally dissipated?
So at the you reach the edge of the bog, and the all of the mist seems to have sort of expanded and thinned out, and so there's sort of, it's not like a thick curtain anywhere near you, but you can't see particularly far in any direction, and if you think you can, you're probably not seeing what you think you're seeing.
Mm-hmm.
So there are sounds and voices and movements and slithers, but at least in the immediate vicinity, you seem to have gotten yourself up onto solid ground near the edge of the bog. The communion of clay slackens and kind of falls away behind you as you step up onto mere earth.
Thank you, Claiborne. Are you all right, Sisyphus?
And I think he just sort of coughs up a whole bunch of kind of muddy water. Where Cecile's kind of just slapping him on the back, just kind of keeps coughing up more muddy water. Kind of smashing his chest afterwards.
I apologize that my guidance was unable to save you that discomfort.
I suspect we all would have been a lot worse without it.
Yeah. So, human wizard, can we ask you a question?
Yes, if I get to ask you one right after.
Sure. How does a human wizard go around inviting and wielding the power of a serpent? I wasn't aware that was common among your kind.
It's not. I try not to do that, but I also try not to be chased by pitchfork wielding and torch wielding city folk who are trying to murder us.
So you mentioned you try not to, but I'm pretty sure you've done it like 4 or 5 times within the past 48 hours.
This is the first time I've done it within the city limits. My question to you is, what the hell happened back there?
Oh, we talked to the Builder Road and the structure that's been moving underneath. It's been advancing on the city. It wishes to destroy it. It's been following the swamp.
And destroying the hut?
Sisyphus was a little surprised by the depth of hatred the Builderstone had for, well, everything around here. Sorry. They make the huts here so fragile. Sisyphus is kind of used to slightly different structures.
At the Proving Grounds, it was
he's more of a lean-to kind of guy.
At the Proving Grounds, it was one thing, but here I didn't want them to follow us and drown. I hope that we successfully discourage them from following. If any of them die, I'd rather not think about that.
So
What do you-
you are
You feel a
wielding-
little twinge. Sorry, Kian. You feel a little twinge of heat from your bond,
Which bond?
your mark, your mark of wizardly servitude.
Is that heat familiar? What does that signify to me?
You don't know. You haven't felt that before.
Great. I look back towards Clayborn.
Sorry,
You are wielding the powers of the serpent. And you, looking toward the Siren, are able to speak with the builder structures and feel what they are feeling. You are all important, and I will follow you.
Okay, so question for you, Claiborne. You got very wet, and we saw a skull and a crown, and I thought you were a creature of magic, but you look like you're the remains of a human, perhaps a king. Do you remember who that was?
I believe you are referring to the structure that I carry within me. It helps me to maintain a human shape.
Do you know who it was?
No, I do not.
Is one structure as good as another?
I do not know. Now, may I ask a favor of you?
I think you're entitled.
You may always ask.
Would you remove this dagger from my back?
Oh, I thought I already did when I felt it. In which case, if he didn't notice, I pull it out. This one?
Are there any others?
I'll check, and Cecile kind of slaps Sisyphus, who goes down with another bout of coughing. And then he kind of gently runs the deft lizard fingers across your back. Are there any other bumps or protrusions or anything down?
You pull out a piece of shell shaped like a jagged triangle.
Well, we have a piece of serpent. I think he takes it and kind of flicks it over to Keegan, if you want that.
Keegan.
Is there anything else in the back?
No.
Okay.
Wait, what was it? It was a piece of shell?
Yeah, it was one of the teeth from the water serpents we fought yesterday.
Oh.
Piece of shell about as long as the last tip of your pinky.
I hold on to it.
The Surin have little love of the serpent, and you would think there might be a little bit of kinship there, but because they're pretty strongly with the dragon, they tend to mistrust anything associated with the serpent.
Thank you.
I actually take a look at the dagger. It's a bronze dagger, which I think is actually relatively rare, right?
No, it's what a dagger would be made of.
Oh, okay. I thought bronze was pretty like good quality.
It is expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Does it have any markings of discernible?
It has sorry. It has a little maker's knot on there's the handle is a sort of thread work with a ball at the end, and in the bottom of the ball there's a little maker's knot, which would probably be whoever in the market, if it came from here, made it. But otherwise, no.
I put it in my pack. Is the heat? Go ahead.
I have heard that you humans sometimes name your blades. If that is true, and you would like to name this blade, might I suggest naming it Hospitality?
Kian looks as if he's about to respond to the first comment, but when you follow it up, he's like, done. Is the mark still, do I still feel the heat from the mark?
No, it's gone.
Were there things that was there things from the Geas that was placed on me specifically that I'm supposed to follow or not follow? Things I'm supposed to look out for?
Of course.
Did I violate any of them just now?
Maybe.
Like?
Endangering the people to all.
Oh, okay. I was trying to protect them, but you know.
Yeah.
I mean, you did protect them by kind of, unleashing the serpent right behind you.
Yeah, well, they weren't very easily dissuaded.
I tried talking and then I switched to fire.
And that, officer, is why I had to blow up the building behind me. It was
totally understandable. $5 free to go.
Yay! Well, that didn't go very well. I wanted to check on Bandon, but I don't know if now is a good time. Where did Bandon Alu live?
He lives in Clearwater, which is an area in the northwest part of the town.
Oh, so it's a different section?
A few miles from where you are.
Oh, okay. Normally I would call it a night, but with Daru missing, I feel like time is more important right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Off we
going to
go.
head towards Clearwater. I don't know if all of you are coming with or...
Yeah, we'll follow.
I'm grateful.
So, Wizard, can I ask another question?
He kind of blinks very slowly. Yes?
So just to confirm, you're going to finish this task for this princeling. Correct? You're going to figure this out. And then and then what? What do you get from doing that?
Get to live.
I mean, you might be able to live if you just ran for the Tainwood with us.
He gestures to the mark where he just recently felt the heat. It's not quite so simple.
Will that kill you if you run?
Something will.
What do you mean something?
Someone.
Oh, is that like a tracking?
They'll find me.
Hmm.
You already met her. She's actually rather not that terrible as far as the mage hunters go. Don't tell her I said that.
I think may I? He goes to like touch it, Cecile.
He kind of winces and you've already started moving towards it, so he doesn't move out of the way.
It seems to just be ink.
Well,
Actually, it's a scarification.
Oh, is it scarification?
Yeah. So they cut him and then worked ash into the wounds.
Hmm.
So that
they take
so
this
that it's
very
scarred.
seriously here in Tuhal. It's not the kind of thing one easily escapes. Believe me, I've thought about it quite a lot. I've had plenty of time. 10 years, actually.
Is this a room that's like on his? What gives the mark its power?
Yeah.
I feel like if we had the mark of a practitioner, it could be something else. My people do tattoos when they're younger. And when one tattoo is old and no longer wanted, it can be used as the basis for another tattoo and it becomes something entirely different. This, and he kind of points at it again, this is beyond my art, but if you found someone with the art, you might be able to transform this. You might be free.
I don't doubt that the ruin can be transformed. I doubt that I would survive the transformation. The fact that I'm still alive right now is really a product of, wouldn't call it fortuitous, but I can't think of a better word. Circumstances. Normally they would have just executed me at the spot.
I have a question for you. A bit of Syrian philosophy. Have you ever...
Yes.
I love how weary he is of the Syrian. We're constantly questioning his place in society that he's already a little bit on the edge of anyway.
He says, why not?
You've seen the butterflies in the spring and the summer.
Yes.
And you've seen the caterpillars in the early spring.
Yes.
And you know they're linked. Have you seen the pods by which they perform their metamorphosis?
I seem to have a memory of coming across such one time, a long time ago when I was a child, but yes.
Did you ever open the pod?
No.
If you were, what would you imagine you would find inside?
Something dead.
And you
Because
would
I
be...
had killed it.
Do you think you would find a caterpillar, or do you think you would find a butterfly?
I think it would be neither.
You would be correct. For when the caterpillar goes in, it becomes something else. Something that is neither caterpillar nor butterfly, but is sort of a goop. In essence, the caterpillar unmakes itself. It dies. And then it is reborn as a butterfly. When it is in the cocoon, it is neither butterfly nor caterpillar. It is simply a dead thing, raw material for something living to come out of.
If you're trying to convince me to become a butterfly, I think you'll have to have a more compelling argument. Then I think I know somebody.
And screen swipe. There's a scene tag now. The hour is early. It's taken you some time to make your way across the city, and the day began with in the gray hours investigating the teaching pond inside the Durance of the Crown, and the day has gone on long. But here you are, you've made yourself a way around the Clearwater Loch and to the small cluster of houses along its northern bank that seem to form a little community. Surprisingly, the area is walled.
The area is what?
Walled. It has its own kind of, and it isn't an earthenwork wall. They're large, smooth, river-worn stones. Although where river stones came from around here, you wouldn't know. The large, worn river stones in there, they're stacked with purpose. But and bound, it seems, by together by the sharp tendrils of blackberry bushes that reach out from the edge of the clear water and drape themselves in their small, wide leaves over the round stones. And you sort of make your way around, and it's sort of like a it harkens back to the old sort of ring fort towns that dot Mauer. And looking at the base of this place, this may in fact be a small ancient fortification that has been modernized with houses within. And you come, and there's an arch of stone built in the wall that has been cleared of the brambles, but an evergreen bladed, spade-leafed ivy curls around the arch and down and drapes itself along the surrounding stones. And there's a stout pole on either side of the archway, and there's a bowl affixed to the top of the pole, and there's flames dancing. It's obviously an oil flame. Flames dancing, casting some light. And you can see there's a stone bench just outside, and there's a tall kind of interestingly barefooted woman with narrow shoulders and a narrow bony face who's watched you walk up the stone walk from Clearwater Loch. She has a sling sitting openly next to her, and an open bag full of small round dark stones. And there's either a cane or a shillelagh, or possibly both, leaned against the stone next to her, and she has her arms crossed under her small breasts. She's old. She's maybe 35, but she's very stern looking, and there are frown creases indelibly embedded in her forehead and between her bushy eyebrows. And she has a mole on her prominent mole on her left cheek, from which one very large hair grows.
Ew.
The shillelagh, that's
she
like
has,
a beating stick, right?
yes. And she has a short cropped mane of black hair that can be described as Corvidian. She looks a little bit, she has a slightly hawkish nose, and she looks a little bit like a crow. And she sort of, with dark eyes and her arms crossed, she regards you.
Is she?
And what are you doing here so late at night, strangers?
What kind of clothes is she wearing? Is she armored in any way, or?
No, she's wearing like rough homespun.
And what
And
time?
she's wearing like trousers and a long shirt or tunic-y kind of a thing.
What
with
time of
short
day
arms.
is it roughly?
It's now about 10 o'clock at night.
Huh.
So in some ways it's the hour is early.
Got it. We're here. We're looking for a friend.
She raises one caterpillar of an eyebrow. Doesn't say anything.
Do you know a Darrow Boyne? Have you seen him?
I can assure you that no one by that name lives here.
I'm aware. The last I talked to was his wife. She hasn't seen him tonight.
Well, there's no public house in these walls, so she kind of chins in the direction from which you came.
He came to see Bandon Olu, who I believe does live here.
The prominent crow's feet at the edges of her eyes grow deep and shadowed as she narrows her eyes at you. And what would you have to do with the Olu?
I've answered several of your questions. Do you want to tell me who you are and what you're doing?
You'll answer several more if you want to get in here without fresh bruises.
As I said, I'm a friend. And he's missing.
Well, he isn't missing here, I'd say.
And how would you know for sure? Is there a crime against me calling on an Olu?
She cocks her head at the silence. The quiet, that's how I know. That no Boyne is visiting Olu by night.
Do you know Bandon?
And what are you off asking about Bandon for?
He kind of sighs a little wearily. He and several others have been missing for a number of weeks now. And
the caterpillars of her eyebrows inch closer together as if for comfort.
Yeah, so he asked that question kind of feigning weariness, or answered that question feigning weariness, but he was actually looking to see if there was surprise, and it seems like there was from her. Is that right?
Are you beginning an investigation?
Sure.
Okay.
Seems only fair at this point.
I agree. I quite agree. Alrighty, and what are you tapping for your investigation?
Just a mundane, perceptive, likable, and secrets? If you'll allow it.
How does your mission secrets? How does that work here?
Secrets is my trade. The question under mission was like, what resource do you rely on?
Hmm.
And I said secrets.
Okay.
Yay.
And then I'm gonna tap. I'm gonna tap the hour is early.
Against it. Okay. So plus
Yeah.
2. It's fair. 8.
Okay. So the answers you're gonna get are fuzzy, incomplete, or partly true. 2 questions about her.
Does she know the Olus? Personally?
You can't tell from her general negativity. You can't parse that apart from her personal relationship. But she clearly knows them, but what her relationship is to them, you couldn't say.
Second question. Has she seen Darrow?
That's why you think she's so irritated with you.
Oh.
Is that somebody's been here, maybe him.
Got it. Kian kind of lifts up his hands in a universal gesture of non-hostility. I gather there's been some sort of a mess. I assure you I'm just trying to help clean it
I don't
up.
know what you've heard, but the community of Clearwater is fine. And
All
don't
right.
you be telling anyone else anything different.
Fine. That doesn't concern me, and I won't. You don't need to worry about that. I'm genuinely just concerned about a friend. And I have reason to believe he came this way looking to speak to either Bandon Olu or a relative, or I don't know if he's married, his wife or somebody. And he hasn't been seen since, and that's why we're here. If you know something, if you're able to point me in the right direction, if I can take him out of here, it probably would make things a lot easier for all of us.
As I said, everything's quiet now.
What happened?
Your man was poking around, but he's gone.
Do you know where he went?
Haven't a clue.
Do you know in which direction he went?
He must have gone over the wall.
Did she gesture in a direction? Over the wall could mean a specific direction, or could it be any direction?
Look, it's a circular wall, so
Yeah. What did he do?
start people up.
Was he asking questions? What did he ask? What was he looking for?
He was being nosy. She says, looking pointedly at you.
All right. Would you at least do me the kindness of letting me know who I'm talking to?
I'm Dara.
Hello, Dara. I'm Kian.
And who are you then?
Kian. If we find him, we won't be bothering you again. Could you at least, do you have a direction or a thought where he might have gone? Which way?
Well, he made his way over to the Olus, didn't he?
Aye. Would it be all right if we also made our way to the Olus? Is there anyone there to receive us?
Well, there's the Lu family, but they've kept to themselves. Better than the rest of us, aren't they?
I see. When she says that, am I noticing enmity between her and the Olus?
Oh yeah, she clearly doesn't like them.
Ah. Well, the Olus have gone missing as well, which is, I think,
What do you mean
why
they've gone missing?
just they haven't been seen, as far as I know, for a couple of weeks. Donald and Bandon, the two warriors from the Proving Grounds. I think Daru was concerned.
There isn't any Donald Olu here. He's a man of low repute, lives over in the old market.
Aye, yes, but they're both from Clan Lu, right? Donald and Bandon.
They're second cousins, as
Aye.
I understand it. Through their aunt, Leia.
We're going to go to the Lu house, and I have no intention of causing any trouble. So,
She looks like she's about to object, and then gets a sort of like curled face and says, "Well then, be about it quickly, and don't wake anyone else."
I won't be bothering anybody else.
What the Lus deserve to have visitors in the middle of the night. And no better. Get on with you.
Thank you, Dara.
Perhaps you should have a wash before you go, says to you, Claiborne. Who is it, dear? You hear a voice from the other side of the wall. No one to concern yourself with, Desmond. Go back inside. All right, dear. You make your way past her.
Yeah.
She reaches over and slips one wiry, bony hand around the shillelagh and gives and it's like she can't figure out whether to glare more at the Surin or at the dirty man. So she kind of just glares back and forth between you.
Nosy.
It's back to the left against the wall. It's the one with the most ostentatious separate wall around it, isn't it?
Thank you.
So there seem to be a few. It's a very broad circle, and so there are more than a dozen homes scattered through here. There's even a few trees growing, shading some of the buildings and some little public spaces, and some of the dwellings have like chairs outside or stone benches. Some of them have little like vertical garden areas. Some of them have small walled areas, but by far the largest is there's what would qualify as like a paddock, sort of to the left, taking up a huge swath against the outer wall, and it's as though somebody made. The owners made a relatively cunning replica of the outer wall and extended it in. You go over and there's a wooden, a big, heavy timber wooden door held in place with dowel and rope. Things on doors, hinges, dowel and rope hinges. Very nice, kind of embedded in the wall, and it looks like there's a on the left side of the door. There's a sort of a rope and ring kind of closure, where there's a rope and a ring attached to the walls and the door, kind of laced through the door, and you put the ring up like on one of the rocks at the top that sort of holds the door in place. And the ring is off, and so the rope is kind of slagged down and it's just sort of hanging on the door, and so the door is a little bit ajar. And there are a few lights on, and you definitely have the sense that like there are sort of like draped and shuttered. There wouldn't be any glass, but there would be windows. And there's definitely been the furtive parting of window coverings and the soft. I don't want them to notice I'm opening my shutters to stare at them out of my house sounds as you make your way through the little neighborhood. There are, by contrast, no lights coming from this area.
I'm moving as quietly as possible, although not overtly sneaking.
I think Cecil whispers
There's a
to you.
door, and there's a large kind of. It's not squared, but it's sort of a squared circle against the of the wall.
I think Cecil whispers to you. Why are we sneaking like we're trying to steal something?
I'm not sneaking. I'm just trying not to wake anybody up. It's late.
You hear from inside a nearby window.
They don't sound like they're asleep.
Certainly some of them don't. The door, are we in sight of the most ostentatious?
This is the ostentatious wall.
Oh, this whole thing is it?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Clearly the Olu house is inside this big cordoned off section.
Is there something barring entry, or can we just walk in?
It's a door, but it hasn't been latched or anything. Like I said, it's held together by a complicated like rope attached and a ring, and you put over a thing and the door.
And you said the door was ajar a little bit, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I is it the kind of door that you knock, or no?
Well, it's in an outer wall.
Right. So no.
Is my description too confusing?
No. I think I got it. I was just like
Okay.
I couldn't tell if there was somebody, if it was a gate where there was somebody like manning it, or if it's just like an outer gate and there's nobody there. I think I gingerly place a hand on the ajar door and push it open.
Okay. Yeah, you push it in. There's the subtle kind of like unwind of the ropes on the dowels as the door swings in to the yard, and it scrapes a little bit at the end. There's a crushed gravel path that leads forward. There is in fact a little sort of entry paddock with a low wall, and you can see, and they must actually have done very well for themselves. So you actually see a small trough with water and a hitching post, like for a horse. And beyond the low paddock, you see there's a large building that kind of hulks, and again unlit, back against the outer wall, and the yard around it is split into three pieces, and there's sort of a beyond this low paddock, there's a sort of an open area where there's a small vegetable garden, and then on the left side you can see there what's obviously like a goat paddock, and you hear the little sort of welcoming challenge of one of the little gray goats. And then on the right, it looks like it's a little mixed farmyard with some chickens and a couple of sheep.
Do we see any signs of disturbance?
And you
Sorry.
see the two, oh no, that's three of the white black-faced sheep have huddled together to become one white fluffy mass and are slowly moving away from you behind the chicken coop. And I'm sorry, what was your question?
I was asking, do we see any signs of disturbance or a fight or anything like that?
No.
Okay. Is there a light, any lights on in the building inside the house proper?
No.
Do people usually go to bed pretty early? Sundown, I guess?
I mean, working people do, because you've been up working all the day. This isn't like an actual farm, so there would be work, but there wouldn't be like the work of a farm,
Right.
because these are city people, and you're actually in the city. So they would probably be up later, and there are lights in some of the houses that you don't think came on just because you came in, but just because people are up.
I think
And it's actually even the custom that in the city that if people wake up in the middle of the night, like 2 or 3 a.m., they'll sometimes go visit a friend. And so actually this is sort of a quiet time, and then at the wolf's hour at 3 or 4, sometimes people will be about doing stuff.
I think I'm going to approach, and considering how nice the house is, I'm going to guess that they probably have servants. So I'm going to knock on the door quietly.
Okay. You go up. Yeah, it's a lovely. It's actually like a clay straw bale house, which is fairly unique for Kirkivale. And it's tall. And there may even toward the back maybe be like a second story, like a room, in the back above the wall. And so there's a very nicely fit kind of turtle shaped door. And as you knock on it, You see, in fact, that for like a handle, actually a small tortoise shell has been affixed cunningly to the door to use to like pull to open the door. You softly, and there's no response.
I look back at Claiborne and Cecile.
You see, you look back at them, and Claiborne, with your sort of different sight, Brugon is now, the gray moon is now almost directly overhead, casting a sort of pitiless, sharp-edged black pool around the feet of everything.
Mhm.
But almost almost as a suggestion of something else, Gromegood, the silver blue moon, has crested the horizon, and so there's sort of like little blue luminous edges, softening everything. And so in that light, Claiborne, you notice that, oh, I'm gonna have to change headsets in a minute. Claiborne, you notice that there are signs that someone you think has tried to force the door open.
The door before us, or the door that we came through?
No, the door in the house.
Ah. This door has seen trouble, which might go somewhere to explain the unwelcome attitude of the gatekeeper.
I look down at the door, kind of the marks on the ground. Excuse me. I can't. I think you can see something I can't. Does it look like it was successful in being opened?
He points it out to you, and you kind of move so that, and you would know Gromegood is a light. It's kind of silver blue, and it said that she's the keeper of secrets, and that many things which are lost can be found in her light.
Mm-hmm.
And so as you move out of the way and her light shines on the edge of the door, you can see it looks like somebody maybe with a knife or something, like got it into the door lintel and tried to pry the door open. And then something larger was obviously used because there's a little damage to the clay in the straw bale walls.
Wow.
But it's interesting because there aren't any marks on the wood of the door, only on the clay of the wall.
I try the door handle and see if
You're
it's
not
open.
going to knock?
I did knock. Nobody answered.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Okay, that's right.
You lay your hand on the little tortoise, and it's not so much a handle. They don't have lock technology yet,
Mm-hmm.
so it would just be like a pull handle, like something to grab to pull.
Mm-hmm.
And you pull on the door, and it just doesn't. It's like pulling on a boulder. It just doesn't budge like at all, which is weird.
So, given what I could see now by the light of Gromegood, does it look like the person failed to open the door? Like they tried real hard but couldn't get in, or?
That's your guess, yeah.
Knocking on this door.
And actually, so as you lean closer and sort of examine the door, you even see there's some like clay transfer on the door, like parts of the wall are sort of splattered against the door, and it in your mind you can see somebody with like a bronze pry bar, like trying it and nothing happening, and then them hitting the door with it, like in anger or frustration, or just trying to break the door.
Right.
But there isn't any mark on the wood. There's just a clay transfer kind of splatter onto the wood.
As if the door's protected, the way the house isn't.
Yeah. Right.
I don't suppose either of you know how to get inside.
After you ask that, you have images of Sisyphus coming up through the roof of another house.
Are there any windows?
Absolutely.
Any big enough for a person to crawl through?
There are 3 sets of shutters down each side of the house.
Are the shutters openable from the outside?
Well, ultimately, all shutters are openable.
Sure.
Typically, the way shutters work is either they just pull closed, or they pull closed, and likely in a house as relatively nice as this one is, they'd have some kind of latch, or there'd be like 2 ropes you'd tie together, or like a rope and a dowel that you fit through a thing,
Right.
you know, so that the windows would secure, like if there was a big storm.
Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna try each shuttered window and see if there's one that opens.
Okay. You try the first set of shutters, and they don't budge the width of the nail of your pinky.
Mm-hmm. This feels definitely like magic, right?
Yeah. And then on the left side, and then you go to I guess you're probably going to go into the side with the chickens rather than the goats, because goats sometimes get ideas.
Right.
So you go to the. Hang on, I'm just going to switch.
Oops.
Can you hear me now? Nope.
I can.
You can. Okay, good. Lovely. And I sound okay?
Better.
Great. You go to the second set of shutters, and you see that one of them has obviously been broken and pulled back into place from the inside.
Oh. Okay. So I try to see if that one I can open.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It comes right out in your hand.
And I climb inside.
Okay. Yeah, you climb through the window and pass into the relative darkness inside the house. You can see there as you clamber through and put your feet on the floor. You see that there's a small table and what must have been like a clay pot with some herbs or something in it is like knocked over, and the pot is shattered, and the earth is across the floor, and there's pieces of plant and stuff. It looks to you like the house is set kind of divided into at least 3 sections, and this is like the middle section of the house. And so you can kind of make out in the demi blue gray gloom coming through the window. You can make out a hearth but you don't feel any heat. And you
Mm.
can make out a number of rugs, probably furs on the floor. And you feel, and this is like it's like a tempered clay floor. Like they've made big semicircles of clayware tile and set them with something
I'm
and
gonna
laid furs over them.
open the door for the others, or I'm gonna try to.
Okay.
And I'm wondering also if this kind of magic, whatever is magic is holding the door and the window shutters closed, is that
Mhm.
actually kind of not uncommon for the wealthy, that they could hire or procure that sort of a protection to keep their house safe? Or
I mean, like for a wizard's house in Cahal, it would be totally normal. Like, oh, I can't open any of the doors or windows. What a shock.
right?
But here, that's weird.
It's
Mhm.
weird. Okay.
Yeah. Further supporting the echo in your mind of Dara's bitterness, they even seem to have, and hold your panties, doors inside the house. And the door that leads to the front section of the house is it's of a similar shape and size, and it has a tortoise shell on it, just like the one that leads outside, and is similarly unbudgeable.
So he can't let us in?
No, he can't get into the room that is the front room of the house, where the front door is.
Do I see signs of frustration there too?
Yeah, you see a couple of obvious where somebody has obviously hit the wall next to the door, and like carved chunks out of the wall.
Oh, fucking Darrow.
And then as you look, you see the obvious impression of a fist.
Yeah.
Mhm.
This room I'm in, is this some sort of like storage room?
It seems to be like like a living and work area. It may be where they eat. Weirdly, it doesn't seem to be where they cook. How rich are these people? So there's a hearth, but there's no like there is like a swing like a swing hook, a really nice bronze swing hook. But there's no cauldron or anything on it, and the fire, and it's totally dead.
Mm.
The hearth is totally dead. And there's a table, and there's another door that leads further out toward the exterior wall.
And all the doors in here won't budge, right?
No, you go to that one, and it pulls.
So I
problem.
quickly go back to the window and I tell them there's another door in here that I'm going to check into. I could actually probably get Cecile and Claiborne in here, right?
Oh, sure.
So I kind of beckon for them to come in.
Okay, Cecile will jump on your back.
Like an attack monkey.
Yeah.
Is this why?
Obviously, when you were inviting them in, that's what you
You-
meant, right?
You might be light for Sisyphus, but how big is Cecile?
He's like 5 feet tall. I mean, or he would be if his legs worked.
Yeah.
Oh God.
So he's more
Yeah.
like 4 feet tall, but he's pretty thin,
Hmm.
like a giant lizard. So I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe 45 pounds or something.
Okay.
I mean, you definitely feel him, but I
Right.
don't know that he's particularly heavy.
Okay. So I
so-
grunt and I.
And so Claiborne and you said,
Is this wise?
Well, I think we left Wise behind yesterday.
Can I ask? You seem to disapprove when I entered the other house, and yet you've entered this one.
Well,
What is the difference?
The difference here is that nobody is present.
Well, I didn't think anyone was present at the other one.
Oh. We didn't quite make sure of that, which is why I was waiting.
That woman's child's going to die.
Oh my god.
Have you seen Dr. Sleep?
Oh.
You know what I'm thinking?
Yeah.
Oh god.
Yeah, he just kind of looks at you, sad from back of the head, and just kind of. It could probably be prevented.
Kian looks obviously discomfited by that, but he does say, "Well, 2 of them made it."
That's not bad.
I don't know how many didn't before, but
Only the bog knows.
Oh god.
Sheila a gig.
I try the other door, the one that you said opens.
Yeah. Claiborne, what are you doing?
I will come in through the window and follow them because they are important.
Okay.
Carrying Cecile appear to be a burden for Kian.
Kian's puny.
Cecile, I can carry you easily if you wish.
Well, if you think that's okay, if you think that's important, I'm happy to switch over. And I think he kind of clambers over, like a little lizard backpack.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, right now, I picture Cecile like Kermit the Frog. Yeah,
with a little string on the hands, like yay!
Where does the other door lead? So you pulled the door open, and it's a strange room. It obviously has like a hearth and like a food preparation area, but the other side of the room seems to be some kind of art, it's like part textile, which is not maybe that strange, but part like textile production, and then and there are you can barely see now, but you can tell that there's like yarn and wool and stuff sort of everywhere over there. In something of a confused disarray.
As if some very impatient person just fucking turned over everything looking for something.
No, because it's not like all sort of piled in one area or anything. It looks more like it looks more. It doesn't look like an immediate mess. It looks like something that's been messy.
Oh, okay. I look for signs of dust. It's been a while.
So you basically can like barely see anything in here. You and Cecile.
Can I light a torch or something?
Oh, yeah, just flick the switch and.
No, light a torch. They're rich.
You hunt around a little bit, and there are some reeds. There are some reed torches that have been dipped in resin, but there actually are also some candles in candle holders.
Mm-hmm.
So so they also flagrantly waste money on candles.
Those fuckers.
There's people who are hungry out there.
Something is strange here.
What'd you say, Claiborne?
Something is strange here.
There seems to be
the air feels cold.
What do you mean by that?
You mean like it did back in the swamp?
No.
What did you call it? The bog?
Do you feel it?
Now that he mentions it, you do feel a draft.
I feel a draft, although
As if we were outside.
did I leave the window open?
You did.
But does
But
it feel like?
but you're a room away now.
Mhm.
But yeah, maybe there's air moving through, but like they've clearly got a really nice, stone hearth, and so it must have an airlet, because there aren't enough windows in this room.
So
Like if they were. Go ahead.
you said that I did find like candles that I can
Yeah.
light.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look at the candle and see if the flame moves in a certain direction, like as if looking for air.
Yeah. So you light the candle and turn, paying attention to the candle flame, and it seems to be pulling toward you, weirdly. And then as you turn, you realize it's pulling toward the doorway that you came through, and you look back where that came from, and Cecile sort of following your gaze as well, and you notice that in the middle of all of the complex yarn and wool, which you realize now looks not a little bit like a spider's web.
Oh no.
You see that there's a large door in the floor that's open, and the air and the draft seems to be coming out of there.
I think
So-
Kian actually
oh.
says out loud,
Oh no!
"Fuck me."
And I think we'll cut tonight's adventure there.
So I'm just wondering if the proper response to that is just to close the door and then to put the table on it.
The
just put
table
the
and
table
some
on it.
rocks.
Right. And it's like, all right, problem solved.
Awesome.
All right. So geeking out during the credits. What did you enjoy about your fellow role players this evening?
Oh, it was a lot of things.
I believe that you humans sometimes name your episodes, and I would like to suggest the name Hospitality.
Done.
Wow.
I just edited the notes. I loved Cecile's curiosity and the questions that you were asking, and Kian enduring them was fun.
Yeah, a little bit more Surin philosophy, and I loved your little face, just like, oh, not again. Why does every time you mention Surin philosophy, you try and make me look like an idiot?
That's just a happy benefit.
It's neither a caterpillar or a butterfly. It's just a pile of dead goo. Don't you want to be dead goo?
For about how long have you been talking?
I also loved Claiborne, the first hospitality usage with the dagger. That was awesome.
I liked that one too. I liked Claiborne taking a little bit more of an active role in today's thing, kind of taking more of the direction of the lead and offering more opinion. So I like seeing a little bit more of Claiborne being a little bit more assertive as we learn more about him. So,
Yeah, even though Kian in character expresses a lot of exasperation, I actually, as a player, enjoy very much that the two of you are like, both of you are sort of like, wait, so what is okay and what isn't okay? That both of you just sort of like, wait, the law says this, but it's okay in these circumstances. What is that? And Kian kind of having to like reflexively justify everything that we're doing.
No, it's okay because I'm human and you guys aren't.
Right.
At least Claiborne's not all human. So I can do it and you guys can't. End of discussion.
It's convenient.
I have to say that in that disgusting mud hovel with the stench and the unclean diapers and the woman putting honey on her nipple trying to get the kid to latch on, to have Kian try to mansplain to her that the diaper needs changing was brilliant. Like, oh yeah,
ma'am,
that's why the kid's crying.
This just needs a lot of help right here. You just pointed to all of me. Yes, that's what needs the most help right there. Just all of this.
all of this. All of this.
This just isn't okay.
It would almost be a mercy if some enormous lizard walked in and just broke the ceiling, because now something's gonna change.
Mm-hmm.
Hooey.
Well, and see, now she's been victimized by slaves and monsters.
Yeah.
That should please her.
Well, no, but it'll probably get her the condescending, the at first supportive, but later condescending support of her neighbors.
Yep.
God.
Yep.
I
And
can't
what did your
imagine
husband do
why
so
Donald,
that you deserved that?
I can't imagine why Donald had a girlfriend that wasn't his wife. Just couldn't possibly figure that out.
Maybe it was just a chance to like go and have a break.
I loved the like, why do you keep using the power of the dragon? Why do you keep using the power of the serpent? Meanwhile, let's do that. Very, very nice.
Let's both keep pointing fingers and then both keep doing it and causing destruction everywhere we go.
In your wake. Yeah, exactly.
But the dragon is the force of life.
Clearly. So any hurt or harm toward the other, or any help or hurt toward the other players? Characters?
I have not been spending that either. I guess we haven't been doing a ton of rolls. So am I keeping the hurt points?
Yeah, so any all the help and hurt that you accumulate and don't use, it persists.
Okay. I think I have a hurt towards John for maybe barging in and destroying a roof and maybe making your life a little bit difficult in some of the negotiations by being a somewhat uppity pair of slaves.
So that would be Kian having a hurt towards Sisyphus.
Oh.
But I already have a +1 hurt towards Cecile.
I know, but you can have a +2. It's fine.
Yeah.
But I was thinking, actually, I think I want a +1 help towards Claiborne because of him guiding us out of the bog. I think Kian was actually very grateful for that.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
I could see him having a +1 towards Keegan for pulling hospitality out of his back.
Well, it might have been scraping a rib.
It was a very hospitable action.
Yes.
I do like the transition between the very hospitable house and then the next three in which there is no hospitality to be found. Like where we're like spoiled in one and then it's like bam, bam, bam. And it's like, wow, makes you appreciate what you got last.
Yeah, it's like after that first one, we're like, man, all the people in this city are really nice.
No. It was just those two. Just those two.
Which I think is genuinely also part of the reason why Kian's like, we really got to save Daru because the rest
Right.
of this town, fuck those people.
I know, right?
Fuck
Darrow
them.
seems like a decent guy.
And Dara, I think her name was.
Mhm,
That's
Dara.
her. Yeah.
Yeah, she claimed that Daru must have gone because he's not here. He must have gone over the wall. And I think we're discovering that he's not necessarily gone at all.
Yeah, I think he might have gone. My suspicion, which I'm sure we'll find out maybe next time, is that he barged on the door, failed, fucking walked around, woke up people, yelling at people, and then went back to the house.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then found his way down, which is why the door is still open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to close now. Episode 5.
Yeah.
Originally titled The Beloved, but obviously retitled Hospitality.
I'm gonna title this Beloved Hospitality.
Oh, I love it.
Nice.
Yeah.